a few managerial observations I made while dealing with senior managements of company about what are the aspects that they should take into account while they are creating a center of excellence in data science. First and foremost, training the employees. Of course, it's a very important thing, but any good above average intellect engineer with any engineering background or math background or statistic background, and exceptional cases with humanities background, can be trained in 4 to 6 months to do fairly sophisticated data science work. It is a very fundamental field, so you don't need years and years of training in this thing. That's one good thing. It requires hard work, but it's not something that needs years and years to train. And hence, depending on your requirement, you can identify organically your employees and train them rather than trying to go inorganic, where the cost structure may be very, very high. But one thing that I always have a problem, identify as a problem when I'm looking at this organic development, particularly in a services company, is the services companies hate bench time, and so do the employees. So what happens is they train them, and in the meanwhile, their marketing folks are not trained to sell the analytics. It takes a completely different set of skills to sell an analytics project. So I will come to that skill set later. But one thing that the organization COE has to plan is the set of projects that they will have their trained analysts do before they get the real projects. So an organization, while defining the COE itself, has to identify, okay, in next 1 year or so, I will work on these 4 or 5 projects. I'll build this framework, I'll build this tool, I'll build these POCs that I can show, so that the bench time of the trained engineers is well spent. Majority of the time I see this is not given enough care, and organizations is a lot of attrition. Then the third thing is the sales training. The most services companies I know, the sales people are used to the $20 per hour, 160 hours per month, 2,000 hours per year, that multiplication. But here, most of the analytics projects are directly, they have a business impact, and hence that kind of billing may or may not make sense. You have to decide when you are building a COE itself whether you want to build a SAS programming outsourcing unit, in which case, or an SPSS programming outsourcing unit, or an R programming outsourcing unit, where you have a team of people who can run SAS or SPSS or R or MATLAB, and then you build them at $20 an hour. So that's a classic software model. But if you decide, no, I will in fact have an analytics consulting entity, you really need to step up the gear and say, hey, what are the 5 or 6 business problems that I am planning to solve? What kind of ROIs that these business problems are going to bring, and how do I make that sale? In fact, what I strongly recommend most of my clients is spend as much time training your sales and pre-sales people as much time you train your regular engineers who will solve the problem. And most often it's not done, and hence most often I see the failure occurring there. They still are in the $20 per hour mindset, and the engineers are trained to do completely different set of things. And of course, the recently Economic Times published that data science engineers are paid 30% more than data software engineers. In which case, a services organization has to very clearly come up with an HR framework that is not destructive for both sides. Data scientists have to be given enough incentives, but not at the stake of burning hearts of the software engineers. This again, so the HR again needs a bit of training in this if you are interested in building a center of excellence in data sciences. So data science is where IT gets connected to business much more than a regular normal software engineering job, and hence training the sales force, training the HR, planning the bench time are as important as training the engineer.